Hello, everyone. I'm Brainerd Carey, and I'm going to do this webinar on patrons and sponsors for artists. I'm really excited about this, and it's one of the more, I think, exciting webinars that I do, and it has very exciting case histories with it. You can all ask me questions at the end, and before we start, I want to say a few things. One is that if you have other browsers open, other tabs in your browser, if you could close them now, you'll get better bandwidth on this and it'll work better for you. If you have a mail program open, if you could close that mail program now, you'll have a better experience. Also, I would suggest if you have pencil and paper, it's good to keep nearby. And the reason is that you may have questions. So if you have questions and relating to this content, you don't have to take notes for everything, but just because it would be too much, but just notes on questions you want to ask when it's over, which won't be in that long, in about 40 minutes or so. You can ask those questions. I'm going to try to answer all of them if I can. If I can't answer all the questions, I apologize in advance for not getting to you, but I'm going to try to answer all of them. And you can always reply to any of the emails I sent or my Gmail address, which is brainerdcarey@gmail. Okay, let's get going. I'm so excited. This is honestly my favorite topic because it's how I initially got funding for myself, and it was so attractive to me that I really kept doing it throughout my career and still do. So we are talking about patrons and sponsors for artists. I'm going to give you a little introduction and talk about cultural production, because patrons and sponsors are really about producing culture. They're the ones that had created so many commissions over the years. That's why museums get built and more. But just to jump right into it, before the introduction, here's Karen Hampton, someone that I worked with, a student who says after taking my course on sponsors and patrons, she asked a patron and received a check for $5,000. This is about real money. Here's another woman that I'll talk about, Amber. She got a check for $10,000. She lives in Montana. It was to create a public art project. And so we'll talk more about that. This is about getting money for your art. You can be a performer, a singer, an architect, an illustrator. Largely, there's a lot of visual artists in here. But whatever your medium is, you can use this process. So there's three types of patrons, essentially. There's patrons for personal projects, there's corporate patrons, and there's what I call sponsors in a bag. Patrons for personal projects are individuals that give you money, like the two quick examples I just showed you that I'll get into more later. They're people who give you money for personal projects. Corporate patrons are places like Apple or Bose or others that are corporations that give you money for projects. And the last one, sponsors in a bag, is about local businesses supporting your work. So again, patrons and sponsors, to be clear, they've existed for hundreds of years. They support museums. There's more museums in the world now than there ever have been, and they keep growing. That's patrons. The museums don't make money. You know, the cost of mounting exhibits and everything else isn't anywhere near what it costs just for people paying to get in. They need patrons. And I began finding patrons about 15 years ago. So let me explain a little bit about that, because there's more than ever in the world today. I began a very serious and nearly desperate search for patrons after I had a child. I mean, it was like the year he was born. And that's partly because I really wanted to do what I loved. I didn't want to be a dad that had a job that I hated. That's kind of how I perceived my father, or at least that's how I saw it. And I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an artist and do what I want. It worked out. I've received over 100,000 in support, actually more than that, from patrons and sponsors. It's still my main income. I like the system. I like the paradigm. You get money first, either before a project's done or to develop something. It's about people believing in you too, which is pretty exciting. So I'll tell you a little bit about who I am, and we're going to get right into the meat of this whole thing. So if you have a pencil and paper, again, for questions when this is over, that would really help. I graduated college with a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and struggled in Rhode Island, then in New York City to understand the art world. I figured out some things along the way for sure, but it wasn't easy. I got into major museum shows like the Whitney Museum Biennial in New York City and other biennials, as well as different venues where I'm selling art. Um, then I began interviewing people in the art world for Yale Radio. This is kind of a game changer for me. I founded the interview program at Yale University. It's called The Lives of the Artists, Architects, and Curators, like Vasari's book. You interview all those people on a regular basis. I also founded the online school for artists called Praxis Center for Aesthetic Studies. That's where there's classes that help in all these things, which I'll tell you a little bit about at the end. I've written 5 books, and I interview professionals from the art world every week. I have ongoing relationships with multiple patrons and sponsors. But Yale University Radio is kind of special. I started a talk show on their radio, and in the talk show, I've interviewed now well over 800 people, about 5 or 6 a week. And I keep doing it. I actually love it. I love talking to people about what they do and asking them what they do. Museum directors, curators, writers, performers, artists, poets from all over the world. I ask them what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I've learned a tremendous amount from this international group of people that make up the art world as we know it. I'm always drawing from information and inspiration I hear in these interviews about how people manage their creative careers in different parts of the world. And often patrons are part of the support system they use. I wrote 4 books about how I manage my own career in the arts, as well as how countless others, artists and curators, manage their careers. That's me. These books, especially the last one, pull a lot of material from the Yale interviews. So these are the books. The one on the upper left there is How I Got Into the Whitney Biennial. That's a pamphlet that I self-published about how I got into that show, because essentially I asked to be in that show. I wasn't represented by a gallery or an agent or anything like that. But then these others are traditional books published by a publisher. The first one I wrote was Making It in the Art World, about approaching gallery shows and raising money. That's a 260-page book published by Skyhorse Publishing in New York. Actually, that was Allworth Press. The second book was New Markets for Artists, about selling, funding, and exhibiting your work using social media, creating pop-ups, running Kickstarter campaigns, and more. The third book I wrote, and the last one, is called The Art World Demystified. It's in the lower left there. That's about how artists define and achieve their goals. Again, a lot's coming from the interviews that I've done. It's pulling from there, and that's all 3 of those books are around 260 pages. Then there's 2 other books. One's called The School of Wishing. The other is called The Art of Hugging. Those were 2 books that I wrote with my wife that drew from portions of our practice. Okay, now we're going to get right into it. That's who I am. I'm this person that interviews a lot of people. I'm an active artist. I'm an educator, a radio show host. That's where I'm getting all my information from. Now, there's 3 types of sponsors and patrons. There's, as I was saying, patrons for personal projects, individuals that have foundations often and give you money. There's corporate patrons like Apple and Bose Sound, others that also can give you product or money. And then there's something called sponsors in a bag, which is about local businesses. So let's start with that one. Sponsors in a bag. This is a kind of simple model in some ways that's really fascinating. And some people that I've worked with on this have really just run with this and done enormously well. So getting an exhibit funded, here's how it works. You have an exhibit, there are 100 bags, small little bags, paper bags, or however you want to make them, that are given away to the first 100 people that come into that exhibit. In each bag, there's an item from a sponsor, like a business card or product like a magazine or flyer. The sponsors pay to be in that bag. Again, it's pretty simple. You're giving away 100 free bags to everybody that walks into your show. And in that bag, in each one of those bags, there's items from sponsors, let's say just like business cards, for example, as well as magazines and products. So here's the strategy. First, obviously, you need a venue. I suggest do it yourself for the sake of argument here too, so we don't have to talk about, how do we get a gallery to do this and work with sponsors. You know, take all the power yourself here and simply, I would simply create an exhibit of your own work and write it down a little bit about why this is important together. It could be a two-person show, one-person show. Rent a gallery. You can rent a gallery. I'm only talking about a week here. You could rent it for less. Or something that's really hip and a lot of people are using, definitely kind of trending idea, is using an apartment or in another affordable arrangement. You have a friend with a nice apartment or loft. You can say, hey, could I use it for 2 days for an exhibit? I'm getting sponsors and I need a venue. And you can either rent it from them or pay them too. So, okay, now let's break down your budget. If you're using an apartment, which is a very interesting and cool way to do it, that's how a lot of people have done it. And the famous cases of the YBA in Britain, they rented a warehouse space. But in New York and other cities all over the world, people are also doing apartment shows. Curators seek them out. It's kind of intimate and an exciting process. So break down your budget. What's the rental and exhibition costs? If you're renting an apartment or a gallery, and I just mean for a week or less, what are the total expenses? Now you have the income amount that you need to raise, right? So let's say the total income is $6,000, and that includes like refreshments, maybe $2,000 for your friend's apartment or the gallery, or $3,000. Let's just say 6,000 is a lot. You could definitely rent a space for a week or less with that and have refreshments and even entertainment. So I would say raise $12,000. That way you have all your expenses covered and you've made $6,000. So let's say you say to sponsors, for $200, they can put a business card. They give you 100 business cards and they put them in. You put them in all your bags that you're giving away. If they're local, lawyers, doctors, dentists, anybody like that, this is their crowd, local people who actually may have money because they're coming to an art show. So if they're paying $200 per card to just put in the bags, they give you 100 cards and you put them in the bags. 5 sponsors, you've already got $1,000, right? So 10 sponsors, 2,000. If you had 60 sponsors, you'd get 12,000. But you don't need to get 60 sponsors. You can make a rate sheet with different levels if they want to put in product like a magazine or, I don't know, toothpaste or something else. And then ideally 25 sponsors or less, you can reach your $12,000 goal or exceed it. I know artists that exceed their goal. Once you get comfortable with this process, once the local businesses see, oh, you got that lawyer, that doctor, that dentist, that laundromat, that deli, that restaurant, they all want to be in on it. So this is called sponsors in a bag, is what I call it. That's the first one that we're doing here. We're talking about patrons and sponsors today. And at the end, you can ask questions on all of this. And the sponsors in a bag was the first method that I'm talking about how to get local businesses to give you money easily, to fund a venue that you're doing it yourself. The whole show can only be up 3 or 4 days. It's all about the one night where everything's given away. Now, obviously, if you sell work there, it's a bonus. The way this is set up is you're making money right from the beginning of the show. So that's one way of moving forward. And then there's personal patrons. Okay, this is another tactic, right? There was sponsors in a bag, which is about local businesses. Now this is about personal patrons. So you begin by assembling a list. You can use your local museums, theaters, nonprofit centers as sources. You write down the names of people who are the largest donors to those institutions. But where do you find those names, right? Well, they're often on their websites, right? You see often categories: friends, supporters, angels, benefactors. They're listed. If you go into a museum, you see them listed on the walls of the museum. This is your first list to pursue. These are the wealthy people in your area that are interested in supporting the arts. That's certainly one list. So now that you have their names, you have to find their address and phone of their foundation on Google. Look them up. They all have public foundations if they're giving away money. And it's really very simple. You call them up on the phone. You'll be reaching a secretary at their office and say, can I send you a letter. You can also write them a letter introducing yourself first, but I'd prefer that you call and ask if you can send a letter. And they're all going to say, sure. They're, again, public organizations. Even if they're private foundations, they're probably nonprofit foundations. They've set themselves up as a tax shelter to give away lots of money. So I'm sure they're going to want to hear your letter. But in case they don't, they'll tell you then, and you can save yourself the trouble of writing a letter. The other thing that's important about asking them if they want a letter from you is now they're expecting a letter, and you can expect a response. So there's three types of letter to write. There's a letter asking for a donation to pursue studio practice. That was a little bit like a case history, which I'll go over again at the beginning, where a woman got $5,000 just to pursue her practice, not for buying anything or a particular project, just to keep going without giving the patron anything in return other than the pleasure of watching her practice grow. If that sounds odd, think about how patrons give museums $10,000, $100,000. They don't get anything from that other than watching the museum do what it does. Maybe they get invited to a great opening or a gala, but that's it. Then there's a letter asking for support of a particular project that you want funded, and then a letter asking for a meeting resulting in a studio visit. So let's go through them. This is how I got my first patrons. I wanted to make prints. They were monoprints at a workshop in New York City. I needed about $5,000 to go there and spend the week making art. The way you make these kind of monoprints, if you're not familiar with it already, is you have like an 18 by 24 inch plate. This is how I did it. And on that plate, you can spread ink, or which is what I did, or paint of different kinds, and then work into that. Then you put a piece of paper on top of that plate, and you roll it through a big press, an etching press. And so the press has to be pretty big, right? The press has to be at least 36 inches wide, and you need racks to let these dry. They're only one-off pieces. It's not a printing process really. They're one. That's why they're monoprints. So I wanted to go to this workshop in New York where I could have access to those presses. I needed about $5,000 to go there and spend the week making art. So this is what I did. I wrote a letter to about 12 people, and I offered them 6 monoprints in a box, a custom-made box that I found, at a portfolio box place. They're everywhere, but what does it cost to make a custom box that's like a clamshell box that fits, paper prints? Well, the boxes were like $100 each to make, I think, or 150. And I told them, instead of the prints being $1,000 each, and honestly, I never sold a print for $1,000 then. I sold it for a little bit less, but I thought, a gallery would sell it for that, and this was very early in my career. But I said if they bought the box in advance, it would only be $3,000 instead of $6,000. See, they're getting 6 monoprints, I'm saying. They're worth $1,000 each, which doesn't even include the custom box you're getting. And if they bought the box in advance, it would only be $3,000 instead of $6,000. Right? It was a good deal. It was the first time I tried this. I'd read about something like this somewhere, and I adapted it for myself. The 12 people I sent them to weren't major patrons. They were my girlfriend's parents. I knew her father had some money, not a lot, but he was a businessman. Didn't send it to my parents. They're teachers. They don't have the means to do this. I sent it to a few other people who were interested in my art in the past, and anybody that I knew that I thought had money. Didn't know a lot of people then, honestly. But I sent out 12 letters, and this is what happened. I sent 12 letters. 4 people replied. I was stunned. 4 people sent me a check for $3,000. It was way more than I needed, right? I needed, I didn't need that much. I needed like $3,000 to $6,000 to get to New York. I didn't need $12,000. So suddenly I had this extra money. I was so excited. And that began a lifelong pursuit of patrons because I loved getting paid before I made the work, especially overpaid, so to speak. So then you can give them extras, make the box a little nicer, spend time writing beautiful letters, or I could add to it, make a small book, which is what I did. I learned that how a letter was crafted made all the difference, right? It's how a letter is written, what it's written on, whether it's an email or a regular letter, how it's crafted and the words you're using. So that was, and I'll talk more about the writing soon, but that was letter asking for support of a particular project, right? Um, for the others, if you want um, a donation for studio practice or a letter asking for a meeting resulting in a studio visit, this is how it works. This is the process to get people into your studio. You invite patrons to your studio and invite them in couples, I would say. You know, it's not easy to invite a person one at a time. I mean, you can do it, but it's for most people, it sounds kind of risky. An artist that you don't really know is inviting you to their studio and you're alone. Going in couples is a little safer. It makes people feel better. But if you want to make them feel even better, these are the 4 steps to a visit. You send them a letter and you ask them for a meeting. And the meeting is in their office or right near their office, at a cafe right near their office. You'll know where their office is because you're looking them up and you're sending them a letter. And if you don't have their address, you can ask them when you call on the phone. So you're requesting a meeting. And in that meeting, which is pretty easy to get with a lot of people, they're not asked these kind of things all the time. What you're asking for is just to have coffee with them in a place near where they do work. And in that meeting, you talk to them. And that's when you give them an invitation to come to your studio. Would you like to come to my studio? Now they're feeling more comfortable with you. You're talking to them, you're asking them about what they do, and you can have a conversation with them. So let's talk a little bit about what is that conversation? What are you talking to them about? Even in that first meeting over coffee, that kind of cold meeting. This is the heart of the relationship which builds over time. You don't want these people to just give you a donation once. You want them to keep staying with you and keep watching your growth and donating, just like they do with museums. So in the conversation, keep it personal and simple, and most importantly, take an interest in the particular fields of interest of the patron. Now do a little research on them. Ask them questions. It gets you off the hot seat so you don't have to talk about your art right away or anything. Take an interest in what they're doing and keep asking them. That'll give you a lot of information about how to move forward next. So be sincere and be generous and expect as much as you would from any friend, and then ask if they'll come to your studio. And you'll find most of the times they'll say, sure, why not? Because they're feeling comfortable with you. And you sound like a generous person because you're asking them about who they are. All right. That was the second one, right? So now corporate sponsors. This is a bit of a different tack. Like Apple and Bose, these are 2 places I've got corporate sponsorship from, and I'll tell you how. You begin by calling a corporation and asking who to talk to about a sponsorship proposal. Tell them you're an artist and you want to send a proposal to someone, and ask who that contact person is who handles sponsorship, and get that person's email or phone number. I reached Apple by calling repeatedly. I didn't get anything at first, and then I couldn't find anything from Apple. What happened was I called them up, and they said, oh, you're interested in sponsorship? Call this number. I thought, wow, that's exciting. I called that number, and it says, hello, thanks for calling Apple. If you're interested in sponsorship, press 1. If you have a marketing idea, press 2. So I pressed sponsorship. Very excited. And they said, hi, thanks so much for reaching out to Apple about sponsorship. All our employees are involved in giving programs at the moment, so we really appreciate you writing to us, but we're not sponsoring anything at this time. So I thought, okay. And then it said, if you have a marketing idea, press 2. So I pressed 2 since I'm there. It says, hi, thanks so much. I'm glad you have a marketing idea for us. Thanks for thinking of Apple. But we have a marketing department, and we're not looking for new campaigns at the moment. If you're interested in sponsorship, press 1. Nowhere, right? So then finally, I went to an Apple store, and I said, isn't there someone I can talk to about this? I want them to give me iPods for an exhibit I'm having. Is there someone I can talk to? And the guy said, you could call someone in business. I never heard of them giving anything. The person I ended up calling was Buzz Marketing. I didn't know that then, but every corporation, or certainly ones like Apple, big ones, have a Buzz marketing department. They're responsible for out-of-the-box marketing, like product placement in films. The Apple computers you see in films, that big logo. They're getting those from Apple. They're giving them to them or lending it to them. It's a place where your proposal might work. you can always ask directly for the Buzz marketing department to see if one exists at the company you're calling. So um, getting a corporate sponsor isn't so difficult. But let me explain to you what happened when I called It Can Snowball, the Buzz marketing department. Well, I didn't call them. I had an email address. I wrote them an email. I said, I'm having an exhibit and I'm showing some videos and I want 40 iPods to display the video on that'll be attached to the wall. And they wrote me back fairly quickly and they said, the next day, and they said, it was like one line, very informal. They said, sure, we'll send the iPod. Let us know when you're on top of it. I thought, what? Are they saying yes? They're writing iPod singular. Do they mean they're going to give me 40 or one? I wrote back and I said, yes, I'm on top of it. I'm having the show and the 40 iPods are, can be shipped. And they said, okay, let us know when you're ready to have them shipped. It was like there was this disconnect. I was like, oh yeah, I am ready to have them shipped. Having some of those things beforehand, which I do now, is better to know. So eventually they shipped the 40 iPods. And that was pretty thrilling. They gave those to me. And they also said, don't mention Apple as a sponsor. We don't want credit as a sponsor. For us, it's enough that the product is being shown. And that's when I learned about the power of Buzz marketing and what that meant. So corporate sponsors is not as difficult as you might imagine. And as soon as you get one, it's easier to get another one because it shows other people believe in you. After Apple, for me, it was easy to get Bose sound funding and equipment. So I'm going to tell you about other aspects of that. But what I said to Bose Sound Equipment was, call them up, said I'm interested in sponsorship. And now I could say I already have Apple. And I said, look, I want 40 headphones. And their headphones were $300 each. I said, I want 40 headphones and I want $5,000. I thought, why not? It was the first time I tried. And amazingly, they just said, yes, sure. Where do you want them shipped? It was incredible. So they sent me those 40 headphones, $5,000. They did not want the headphones back. They're used. And Apple didn't want the iPods back. So you can imagine I could also sell all of those online afterwards, which they had no problem with. And that ended up being another $15,000 for me. Okay, so there's 3 types of sponsors that we've talked about. Patrons for personal projects, like how I got those prints produced in New York. There's corporate patrons, like I was just mentioning. And then there's sponsors in a bag, where you work with local businesses to fund a show. So the next step is a psychological leap. And this is really huge for this particular idea of raising money this way. It's very psychological. There's things that you need to get over. So asking for financial support usually involves resistance and stress of some kind. Even museum directors of the biggest places, they don't have a real easy time asking for money, but they do it, and it works. So what the experts say is, to manage the stress of that, besides having good sleep and healthy diet and exercise and not smoking, there's having a good social support system. This is huge, right? A social support system. That means if your partner or spouse or friends that you're around with don't think what you're doing is exciting and cool, or they think even something more harmful, like just cut that out, do something else other than art, it can make it extremely difficult. So in the class that I teach on this, that I'm going to show you about the students of, you get personal attention and the ability to see other students struggle and succeed. So your work will be made easier on 2 levels. This is one way to get through that psychological problem. So there's template letters, right? One of the initial struggles is always writing the letter, because crafting the letter is everything. So with my course, you'll get templates for letters to adjust to your needs. So the first step's taken care of, right? That gets it out of the way. But then there's psychological support, and this is really powerful. When you receive small and large amounts of money for what you do, for making art alone, that actually takes a level of confidence that most are not born with. To receive it is what I'm talking about. The class is a place where you will get support from your peers, as well as myself, on this essential hurdle to developing patrons. And that may sound almost like a disconnect, right? But look at this line. The most generous thing you can do is to receive everything. That was a quote by Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivor and amazing writer, Nobel Prize winner, and now deceased. So the most generous thing you can do is to receive everything. This was so puzzling to me when I first saw it. But since then, I've understood more about it. And what I believe this means is it's about accepting presents or gifts. You know, if someone gives you a present or you give someone a present, let's say, and it wasn't expected, but it's just a friend and you wanted to give them a present, and they're unwrapping it and they're saying, "Oh gosh, really? You got me this present? I feel a little bad. You know, I didn't get you a present." And "Oh wow, this is really beautiful. Oh, I feel kind of bad. I'm going to get you a present. Don't worry." And you say, "No, it's okay. You know, I just got this for you." "Yeah, but I know this is kind of expensive and I feel a little bad. I didn't think of this first." You know, that's a little bit different than someone you give a present and they say, "Wow, you got me a present? I'm so excited. I love presents." And then they open it up and they say, "Oh, wow, this is beautiful. You know, I love that you've given me this." You know, there's kind of an art to receiving, right? And that makes you, the giver, feel quite different when it's received well. Or think of this example. You take someone out to dinner, not a date, let's say just a friend. You say, "I want to pay for this dinner and take you out." And they say, "No, I insist. I want to split it with you." And you say, "No, I really want to take you out." "Oh, I really want to split it with you, please." And you say, "No, please accept this. I'd really like to take you out to dinner." And they say, "Okay, next time I'll get it." So they've kind of just removed the gift, right? If next time they're going to get it, they've just split the bill with you. They've removed the gift. As opposed to you're taking someone out for dinner, you buy them dinner, and you say at the end, "Listen, I'm taking you out for dinner, and I want to pay for this, and please accept that." And they say, "Wow, you're taking me out. Thanks so much. I love this restaurant. This is such a wonderful place. Thank you so much. This is really wonderful. This meant a lot to me." They're going to want to take you out again. That's the way to receive. So the idea of the most generous thing you can do is to receive it all because it makes other people feel great. And that's just how patrons feel as well, which is hard to understand. Here's people in the closed group that if you're a student, you'll be in. Someone saying, "I'm currently working on my letter and doing research on museum and gallery patrons, figuring out ways to meet them in person and wondering what types of things make a difference when meeting them, makes a way in." Another person say, "Honestly, I'm still held back by what ifs. Each time I start my letter, I think it's silly. How do you guys work through the fear? Really impressed by all your forward momentum. Thanks in advance for advice." Because you'll see there's students all around these guys that are doing well. And again, this is in a closed Facebook classroom, so you meet these people. This is part of what's happening. So here's a woman saying, "I got my first donation of $50 toward my $5,000 goal. Woo!" So people are commenting, "You're brave. I haven't worked up to that yet." I say, "Any more responses?" "Yup, I'm up to 800. A dialogue starts ensuing. Other students start getting excited, as you would. I say, "How's your campaign going?" 1325. Haven't made any more progress with letters. Unfortunately, I've had some crap to deal with. Hoping to move forward again, but in the meantime, I'm purchasing much needed materials. Right? Don't we all have crap to deal with? Isn't there things that just happen that interrupt life? That's part of it. That's where the support comes in. We see you in the group. I'm there to encourage you, and you're seeing other students do the same. Here's another one. I haven't done the second round yet, but still finishing up with lingering donors of round one. But I have made 2,601.50 so far, with 2 more donations on the way, probably totaling at 200 each. I have 7 gifts to finish up, send out, and I mostly completed the first size Lilith piece. She was working on sculpture. After that, I wrap all that up and some other studio actions, and I'm back on task. I've decided I will be writing to Kiki Smith and Manuel Neri as my artist donors, and I'm deciding on a third. That's something I encourage, that you can also write to well-known artists that you admire, that have money and really understand this process more than you'd imagine. So here's another one. I created a campaign on Indiegogo to raise funds for my art residency this summer. I raised $2,000 so far. She's sending out real letters. See those letters on the lower right there? That's what happens. Some people use real letters, some people don't. I'm a big fan of it. Both methods are used in here. And so I say, "Do you need more for that project or something else?" You know, and everyone's encouraging her, "Rock out with your bad self. How's it coming along?" Someone else says, "I received 1,200 with a couple of more donations. I need to hit up the big boys." People get excited. Here's a few other people, another person talking. Greetings. So for all the new peeps, I've been in the group a few months now. I sent out my first round of letters maybe 3 months ago, and I'm closing down on round one. My goal for the project was 5,000, and I did 3,901, and I got a patron out of it. That means someone who's regularly giving her money. So very excited. In the next few months, I'll move into the next phase, which will include well-known artists and prominent community members. Take a deep breath, put the stamp on it, and send it out. Your job is to write the letter. How others respond is not your part to worry about. She's becoming an encourager. This happens with everybody in the group as they succeed. The art world shouldn't be a place where we're all competing with another. And whether people see it that way or not, in these groups, people encourage each other because that's the generous thing to do, and it only helps you more. So people are saying, that's great to hear. Congrats on your progress. Congrats on your success. It's someone saying it's nerve-wracking to ask for support. It helps to focus on what I can control. Thank you for your encouragement and update. So, people are responding, right? And here's more letters in that thread, people are saying, other students, it really helps me envision a way of asking for monies and engaging an audience. Also, I've been concerned that I would have to have a venue, but yours does not propose that. And you have made a great success already. I really appreciate you sharing. Glad to help. I don't think people expect a fully executable plan if you are in the beginning phase. I think communicating your passion is the most important thing. Right, you are. People are talking. Brilliant and inspiring letter. Very fun and personal, yet detailed and organized enough to convince new patrons that you know what you're doing. Brava. I predict you'll get over your goal with the next round. Last person said, it's very good. Makes me feel like a real person who deserves and needs my sponsorship has written this, and it's written from the heart. This is how to write sponsorship letters, with telling the passion of the arts. Kudos. That's one of your templates. You'll see her letter in there. And I'm right near the end, so if you guys have questions, just hang on, and I'm going to answer them all, or as many as I possibly can. That's how Karen got $5,000 for her studio practice. She took the course, mustered up the courage, and got $5,000 without purchases. Amber Jean writes, I poured through the mail. My tummy flip-flopped when I found an envelope marked Cinemark. After your advice, I decided that being the sole patron of the Bison bench was unlikely since he doesn't make as much as I thought. I had quietly settled on a wish-for number in my mind for the check to be, knowing that it could be anything and afraid to be disappointed. But right in my hand was a check for the wished-for number, $10,000. A lot of money. Bingo. My mood blew away with the same force the snow flurries outside. I am taking a treat to my neighbor right now before settling into my cozy cabin with running water and a grin. She was in Montana. I can hardly wait to continue my fundraising efforts tomorrow. I plan to make the goal of $20,000 before the end of the year and shop for new tires. Pretty exciting. She was using also a fiscal sponsor, which I go over here as well. If people want to give very large donations, that gives them the ability to get a tax write-off. But I want to give you a few more people in the course. So here's a woman that was doing a letter campaign to raise money for a residency. And I keep asking her how it's going. So far, there's $950. The open rate of her emails this month is 32%. I've had a number of people email me and won commission out of this. I am pleased, but it's far short of the $5,000 goal. Then another letter. Just a quick update. Another 150 arrived in the mail since we spoke earlier this week. I did apply to the Awesome Foundation. I really enjoy working with you because you are direct and have a creative and fresh perspective. The third letter. I had a lady come by the studio at closing, told her about Budapest, that's where she was going, and she gave me $5,500. I am thrilled. I know you don't respond over the weekend, but I had to share with you. Huge thank you. She was already set up. She was feeling also like maybe this isn't working and it's hard, it's not as much, but she also knew what she was doing now and what she was asking for. She had written all those letters, so now she could say it to somebody in person, and she got it because it's about just asking the right way. And I love this one. I received my first response to letters asking for support. The donation was more than monetary for me. It represents a much-needed belief in what I do, feeling much gratitude for my first check. Right? Isn't that powerful? It's about, the belief also, the support, the pure support of somebody giving you money. It's not just the money. It's someone believing in you, which is so powerful. And Karen just wrote the other day, I worked with Brainard Carey. She saw that in one of the things I was running on Facebook. I consider him a friend. Consider her a friend too. You get to everyone through writing, said Bianca Jagger. I was her assistant for a little while. She was Mick Jagger's ex-wife, and she also is a person who advocates for a lot of social causes. I learned a lot from her. So how do you convince someone of something? It's always writing. Images, yes, for sure, it's your art, but always writing. Ideas well presented. The Dalai Lama talks about compassion, creating a positive atmosphere. I think this is huge when you're doing something like this, because that's what is created in this course. That's why people are so encouraging. What's the value of a course that teaches students how to get $5,000 and $10,000 donations, like the real students above, more than once? Perhaps the cost is not in the course. It's in the price you pay for not getting the support you need for your art. The potential for what could have been done. I want more artists to do what they want on their own terms. And this is one system for supporting that. If you take the class, you'll have my attention so I can help you directly and personally. Editing your letters is included. You'll have template letters, but then I'm going to help you edit them. That's a big deal. That really gets things going, as opposed to kind of working by yourself on this without any templates and without editing. You need someone to help you edit. Is ideal, I think, if you can. And that's what I'm here for. I will edit your letters. So this is the beginning of this system. There's 8 weeks of guided talks and videos. There's online class experience and support where you're going to actually meet all the people that I just mentioned. There's template letters to use for corporate, personal, patrons in a bag, and personal editing. It's kind of set up. I think the value is $17,000. You'll see why in a minute. The course is $795 a year. Today's coupon, just for you guys, is $300 off. So the course is $495. I'm going to answer all your questions in a minute. You also get that book, the 256-page book of Making It in the Art World. But there's a few other things you're going to get. There's Kickstarter and Patreon fundraising tools and instructions. So you look at this guy. He's doing comics in his own odd way, and he's making $6,600 per month. Per month. He's got over 3,000 patrons who are paying a couple bucks each, and that's how much he's making. That's pretty cool. Here's a woman with 93 patrons making $513 a month. Still nice, right? This is one of the few courses that not only teaches a skill and offers personal guidance, it measures class assignments and funds. When this class is complete, it's when you have more money. It's that simple. This isn't about just more learning or theory or ideas. It's about the practice of doing this, sending out the letters. So a few more things here that I think are important to read, because I love some of the students' response. Greetings, I'm new to the group and I've been stalled beginning this program for many reasons. But the sad truth is that I'd rather chew off my own leg than ask for money. Last night I forced myself to ask a local radio station, and what do you know? I got $500 and free airtime for my project. And here I am standing on 2 legs. I can do this. I'm even looking forward to doing this. It's so intense, right? So powerful. Emotionally, it's very powerful. Another one. So I did it. I asked for a patron if he would invest in my dream yesterday. And he said yes. So that's a method that I talk about, asking people if they'll invest in your dream. We got together for dinner to catch up. Since it's been months since we saw each other last, and that was the first time I told him about my 1,000 things. We talked about lots of things: Berlin, business, Bowie, Bruckner, and the fact that he told several people about my project. He talked about supporting a Berlin musician's recording project. So this isn't just art, it's musicians, performers, all kinds of people. And it was at that point that I popped the question. I said, I see you have already invested in an artist's dream. Would you consider investing in mine? And he said, well, yes, certainly, I would love to. As you advised, Brainard, I didn't let it drop there. I quickly followed up with a monthly versus lump sum support and payments. Options. He agreed to lump sums, like $1,000 every few months or so. I can't tell you how happy I am. I'm going to send him a letter in one of my special envelopes with a self-addressed stamp envelope immediately, so that when he gets back to Kansas City, he'll be able to enjoy that offering and have an easy way to get a check out to me. Thanks so much for your support, Brainard. I hope the other 30 letters I sent out will start returning great great sums of support as well. And she did. She did well. Other people are commenting, right? Woo! Way to leap and kick ass. Amazing. It's inspiring to hear this. I'm happy for you and your success. You are spurring me on to get back into the classroom and focus my attention. Because, again, crap happens. We get distracted. This group keeps you focused. It's all right if you take off a few weeks or a month and come back. Watching the videos before doing the work that needs to be done helped me get in the right mindset. That's the person who raised the money writing back. This is so beautiful and wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And congratulations. I admire your courage. When I get to the ask, even while just reading your story, I feel paralyzed and horrified, shrunk down several sizes. Brainard Carey et al., how do you have any ideas for some baby steps that will build my courage to this live ask? It has left me and been replaced by the nastiest. Who do you think you are voices from life and my imagination? Help. Pretty cool that someone can ask that in the group, right? So she responds. What I did was write out a script, pretty much exactly what Brainard has suggested, and I practiced it many times out loud. So my mouth, tongue, lips, etc. would develop the muscle memory to help me out when I got nervous. I carried the script around with me for a day or so, practicing it whenever I could. I think it helped. As far as the nasty takedowns in your head, try listening to what Brainard says in his videos about how artists provide the incredibly valuable cultural resources that we do, right? We are culture. Another one. Oh my God, I just got my first self-addressed stamp envelope with a check for $2,000. Covers 2/3 of my funding goal. She's going to overfund. I suggest that she creates a stretch goal and perhaps makes a book or something. And here, listen to this one. Today has been a whirlwind type of day. I have lots to tell you all. I want to share. The details are not all finalized yet, but I'll tell you my project was completely funded by one patron, all $17,600. I still have the other $1,600 coming in the mail this week. I can't believe it. But here's the clincher. Thank you, Brainard Carey, for teaching this class. And I want to thank all of you that nudged me to jump in and do it. Because he wrote the letter, I edited it, and he didn't want to send it off. He was afraid to send it off. That's not uncommon. A lot of people feel that way. Even when it's all there, the group supporting you, you don't want to send it off. 17,600. And I had to read this one because this also just came in, and I always love people doing, showing kind of the pathology of this whole thing, the emotion. I'm feeling a bit disappointed. Hi, Brainard and everyone. A bit discouraged with a lack of positive responses from letters I sent to big foundations and to the arts, mostly museums here in LA. My question to you, Brainard, is what are my next steps? I sent out letters for a project with a Fractured Atlas link. I called to follow up with a foundation or two. I'm getting a response that this is not what these foundations fund to individuals, even though this is still philanthropy. Clearly, the foundations are owned by art collectors. I did hear back by email from two saying the same thing, but wishing me luck. I know some of this is just getting my name and project out there, which is great, but I'm afraid they are mostly going to the accounting offices and not reaching the foundation heads. Regardless, was it too naive to send these to major foundations, billionaires? What is my next move? I haven't yet heard from. Lastly, I am working on an Indiegogo campaign, bringing it back to the people. Would love some insight. Her happy update below. She edited that. Update. Well, here's some happy news. Only 20 minutes after posting this, I got an email from Fractured Atlas that a $2,500 donation came in. I am floored and floating at the same time. Turns out it's a relative of one of these foundations. Like one foundation reverted to another foundation. I love this particular letter because oftentimes the process may seem hard and we think, oh, it's not going to work. And that's often just the point where it does work. You have to get that far, though. Okay, so this is it. I'm going to answer all your questions now. But if you want this is the deal for today. And there's 15 spots for this. Because I give you a lot of personal attention, I can't just have an unlimited amount of people in here. You're going to get your letters edited, right? So I think the value is 17,000. You see why now. One guy raised over that easily. But the cost is $795 a year. Today I'm giving $300 off. So that means you get it for $495. Now I'm going to answer all your questions now, as many as I can answer. If you want this right away and you want to be one of the people that gets this today, if you go to patronsandsponsors.com, then you'll have you'll be able to get it there. So in any case, that's the way to sign up for the course. Patronsandsponsors.com. If you click enroll, you will have an option to purchase it there. And if you put in the coupon 300 off, that's 300 and then OFF, you'll hear it all. So let me hear your questions. I'd love to hear them all now. And again, there's wow, someone's quick. Julie, welcome to the course. Just bought the course. That was fast. So there's 13 or 14 spaces left. Don't hesitate to ask me questions. Now I'm going to go through your questions. Okay, Jonathan asks, how much time do I need to put into this course? All right, Jonathan. Well, it depends. I suggest 30 minutes a week. And again, you'll have the template letters because he's asking me about that too. Do I get all the template letters? Yes, right away. Yes, you get it all right away and you can start working on it immediately. I would say 30 minutes a week and you get pretty far, but you can also wait a week or, as I was pointing out, some people have difficulties with different issues in their life or things get in the way. So if that happens, okay, that's fine. That's what I would suggest doing. Other questions? Let's see. Amelia's asking, is there anything you shouldn't do when approaching people for money? What's a no-no? That's a good question. What's a no-no when approaching people for money is to maybe not research them at all, not know anything about them, and so you don't even know kind of what their interests are. It's pretty easy to research people online now and see a little bit about who they are. It's a no-no not to ask them anything about themselves. Everybody is interested in themselves and what's exciting about what they do, right? So the only thing not to do is to not ask them about themselves. I mean, that's what I would come off with right away. Okay, so T. Cooper asks, would you sponsor an artist based on work quality and whom is dedicated advanced education? I'm currently focused on going back to school for electrical engineering and mathematical physics. Very expensive. Yes, there are sponsors for that. I just got a letter from someone, I should have included that in here, who said he uses the tactics in the class and asked someone to help support his education, and he got support for his education. So your education can directly be sponsored by someone if that's what you want to go off of, or the work that you're going to do after your education can be part of your pitch. And welcome, Jonathan. I see Jonathan's in the course now, so great. A bunch of people are asking, does the link still work because they're having trouble? It's patronsandsponsors.com. That will work. And if you get one thing spelled wrong, it won't, but that's sponsors.com. And it should all go through. The 300 coupon, someone's saying the coupon's not working. If the coupon didn't work, then if it goes through anyway, I will manually refund that to you today. So Olivia, is there an archive of your Yale Reader? Yes, there is. That comes with it, or you can look that up online. Thanks for asking, Olivia. Another question, should you ask what type of art and art projects they're interested in sponsoring? You don't have to ask that. If you're talking to a corporation, they don't know what they're interested in sponsoring. You have to tell it to them. If it's something else, then like you want to specifically know what they've done in the past, look up the company, type in the company's name or the person and sponsored, and you'll see what they've sponsored. They most likely have sponsored things at museums. Would you recommend launching an Indiegogo or Kickstarter for a project? Alexander, yeah, I think Indiegogo and Kickstarter is great, but I think you also have to do a lot of work to get those donations coming in. They don't happen on their own. Indiegogo and Kickstarter tend to work really well for things like super cool products that people want, like a smart cooler or a smart coat or something odd that really goes. Art projects can also get, really well funded. Mine got $16,000. That's not huge funding, but it was nice. There's also things to send out. It's a different process. Honestly, I think writing letters is simpler. It's less energy. You don't have to be shipping all kinds of things, rewards or whatever, and it can be more. Ultimately, it can make you more. So so let's see. And other people are saying, is there still room left? Yes, I see John and what is it, Mike, Mary, and who else? Wow, Sylvia are all in. That's great. Welcome, guys. Looks like there's 4 spots left about. So people are asking, and I don't want to spend too much time on those questions, but is there still room? What if I don't get in? If you don't get in, I'll be offering it again, hopefully at another time, but probably not at this price. So it's good if you can lock it in. If you go to patronsandsponsors.com and you can get in, then you're in. Okay, is it $4.95 per year? And that asks, yes, it's for the year. If you want to keep going, you can keep going. You can also cancel it at any time. Some people, once they make a lot of money in a year, they want to keep going year after year and get more editing and more support for more letters. And I'm here for that. That's how it works. Okay, some more questions. What would be the best way to find sponsors and patrons of niche art? What's considered gay art? There's always ways to find sponsors and patrons. If there's a certain kind of art or a social background or niche of some kind, you can begin to find patrons and sponsors by centers that support those people or that niche. That's one way to do it. Hope to see you in the class because I think that would help. And it's great to see everybody come on. I can't really follow that too much, but I see that there's more people coming on. So so welcome, you guys. Really look forward to editing your letters and learning about your work. And again, if I'm missing some of your comments, I apologize. Any of you can write to me. Just either write to my email, which is brainardcarey@gmail.com, or you can reply to one of my letters in the past if I've missed your comment, because there's a lot coming in, so sorry if I have. Olivia asks, for an artist that has not made a lot of work yet, would you recommend trying to get a patron for a studio visit or to sponsor a specific project? Wondering generally about emerging artist tactics. Emerging artist tactics is really the same. It's not like you have to have a big history behind you. You have a vision already. You're making more work. You have a dream. They're funding your dream. It could be a project or something you want to make, or just to continue your practice. As someone was saying earlier, talking about even studies, paying for college studies. That can happen. People can pay for that. So as far as emerging artist tactics, I would say that just holding on to your dream and being able to articulate that is terrific. So so that I think is the main thing. And I want to welcome Teresa, Harry, Wendy, and Joan. You guys are all in the group. I wish I could keep really closer track of it. Let's see. I'm going to answer some more questions. So let's see. It's true. Whether there's a niche or not, as T. Cooper says, it's not like there's black art or gay art or it's all art, right? There doesn't have to be a niche, but if there is something that appeals to that, if your art is about advocating for a certain social cause, then yeah, you can approach that. Kristen asked, what's the best way to approach local businesses for the bag approach? Well, the best way to approach businesses is really to walk up to them with a rate sheet, which you'll get in the class, and tell them that you have a show and it's at a local venue. Could be in someone's apartment again. Say, I'm expecting a lot of people to come there who will be involved in the arts, and some of these people are they're all local, they're all interested in the arts, which means they have potentially money to buy art and would be interested in your services. That's the way I would begin it, one way, but you'd get more support in the group, Kristen, and hope to see you in there. Alexander asks, would you recommend, and welcome aboard, Kirk, good to see you in. I think Kirk's one of the last ones. So I apologize if you don't get in here tonight or today. Rather, if you don't get in here, just go to that link, and if you can get in, you're in. But it seems to me there's one or two left. I'm not sure. You can always email me if there's a problem. Would I recommend writing personalized letters to everyone, or have a template and slightly change the content to fit each potential sponsor patron? Alexandra asks. I would do that. Yes, I would have a template, but then you want to modify each one a little bit so that each person pays a little bit. Each person is pays a little bit towards what you want to do, but each letter is altered slightly to address who they are. So it doesn't sound like a form letter. Absolutely, I think that's very important and a very good question, Alexander. When asking people to pay for projects, to sponsor something, even if you're using a template letter, which I'll supply, very important to talk to them and to adjust, not to talk to them, but to adjust, personalize the letters, each one. Argenta asks, which one of my books emphasizes the patron building skills? Which one? I'm not sure. Maybe the last one. I'm writing a book now about that that'll come out in July. That's just about that. Let's see. Do I just start watching your seminars, Michelle asks? How do we make contact with the group? I imagine this will follow. Yes, good question, though. Let me explain that to everyone. I'm glad you asked, Michelle. If you join the class today, if you're in the class, you will get a response pretty quickly that'll say, thanks for joining. Here's how to get into the class. You've already set up an email and password, so you'll have access today. And then you'll see also a link that says ask to join the closed Facebook classroom. And in that closed Facebook classroom, Michelle, is where you'll see other students talking and things happening. And that's where you would also get your letters edited by me. So, you just start watching the seminars, Michelle, and then you make contact with the group through that link. Once you ask to join that closed group, I'll approve you. And even if you don't start writing right away, it's inspiring to see other people, doing well in there. So I hope that helps. And I don't have a direct link to this presentation. I apologize for that, but I don't at this time. And I want to thank you guys for being in. It's pretty. You guys are a great group. Good questions. There's tons more people here than I can answer. So I'm afraid I didn't get to everybody. But you can email me. You can reply to any emails I sent, or write to brainardcarey@gmail.com. And you guys are saying a lot of nice things. You're so welcome. I really appreciate the nice things that all of you are saying. That's really nice of you. If there's any more questions, well, let me just get to one more, and then I'll sign off. And again, people are asking a lot about, can I get in? Is there one left? Yeah, it looks like there might be a space left, so just try patronsandsponsors.com. The coupon is $300 off. Someone said the coupon didn't work for them. If it doesn't work, just tell me, and I will refund that money tonight, the $300 off. So one person's asking, how about including a well set up pre-sale in the letters as one of the many options? Besides just donations, I was considering exercise option to funding. The problem with this is the high volume of art and graphics that are available. It does create an opportunity to do market research, though, on the desirable graphics, right? I would go for just a straight letter. You can do a kind of well set up pre-sale, but a pre-sale is not really the same as patrons. It's not that we're asking people to buy your art or to buy anything. They're giving you money so that you can continue to do what you want to do. So absolutely possible. But I would focus on gifts of money, not products or anything that you have to give them. So I want to thank you all again for being here today. It was great questions, and welcome all of you guys that are in here. It's really great to see you all. Allison, Michelle, I see you're in the group already, as well as the rest of you. And I'm so thrilled because this is honestly the most exciting class I teach. It's great to see people make money. What artists need is more money, I think, more than anything else. We need shows and all kinds of things, but you need more money. So that's what this is about. And I really look forward to seeing all of you that are in here, and wish you all great success in your studio. So I want to tell you to have a great week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope I answered all of your questions. And for those that I didn't answer, again, I apologize. You can reply to me, my emails, or send an email to brainardcarey@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Just the way this thread works, I lose people kind of quickly. So thank you all, and I really look forward to meeting you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.